We meet a people who stand upon a base of 35 centuries of recorded history. They have inherited a civilization that took form and grew in utter isolation, encompassing in the eyes of its people the center and the ends of the earth. Our first images of China, Zhongguo, the kingdom of the center, came from travelers' tales, wisdom and culture, of contemplation and good manners. We thought of her as quaint, a timeless patina of age shrouding the villages and people, the biblical rhythm of their lives swinging from season to season, from sowing to harvest, from birth to death, in measured tranquility. It is, in fact, a country of breathtaking natural viciousness. In the Yunnan Canyon of north-central China, floodwaters descend to the Great Plains of the south. It is a country mutilated by erosion and flood, dissected by mountains, scarred by desert. And though we think of them as having a nerveless indifference to pain, death, and human disaster, the Chinese have given the world its most enduring monument to fear and vulnerability. Of the 700 million, more than 500 million live on the land, but only 10% of their land will grow food. They live together in the valleys, in the midst of the life-giving fields, in villages crowded one upon another, sometimes a few hundred yards apart. Clusters of humanity. The traveler in this vast land is seldom out of contact with the sound of the human voice. Grave mounds burden the earth. 1/10 of the best land has been given over to the dead. When our already industrializing grandfathers first met China, it was still like a feudal society. But the roots of power lay in the control of food production. The peasant was frozen in poverty, bonded to the landlord. Seldom in his life would he travel more than a day's walk from his village. The China we knew, of silks and teas and elegance, of exquisite food and brilliant porcelain and imperial grandeur, was built upon a platform of human bodies, exploited with a thoroughness and ruthlessness that subordinated the human spirit and all of its works to the purposes of the Son of Heaven. Thus she had lived for 3,000 years, a world unto herself, the apex of civilization, the center of the universe. We are strangers in China, certainly. The first strangers had come several hundred years earlier. They had brought many things. Wealth for a few, but for the many, venereal disease and opium. The 19th and 20th centuries brought the Chinese war, defeat, and humiliation. The heritage these people shared was not so much their common culture or common traditions, as it was their subjection to a poverty and ignorance that knows no counterpart in the Western world. In 1949, these people, 1/4 of the Earth's population, adopted a communist form of government. We call it communism. They call it socialist reconstruction. We call it the revolution. They call it the liberation. Some say they have merely traded one kind of hunger for another. In Peking, a French journalist observed that the Chinese laugh less now, despite their better life.
Why would they not be laughing as much then?
Well, I've tried to ask them, but I couldn't get an answer. Even though, mind you, I was given an answer by one old Chinese friend, who I knew in the old days, and he gave me a very Chinese answer. He said, well, you see, in the old days, the people were so miserable. They had to laugh all the time in order to forget their worries. Now, you see, they're happy. They no longer have to laugh. They don't laugh. I didn't think that was quite convincing.
But the accomplishments are convincing. They've made a new China. Shanghai, once the glittering center of Western influence, has been remade according to the socialist sanitary formula. Though some still live in sampans in the harbor, there are no beggars here, no prostitutes, and no venereal diseases. Much of this due to the work of one astonishing man. We met him in Peking, George Hatem, an American doctor who had come to China 30 years before for a lark.
I remember the first winter in Shanghai. It was pretty shocking to me one morning to see them picking up dead bodies off the street. I was walking to my office one early morning, and there they were, 5 or 6 bodies from different doorways along the main street in Shanghai, Nanking Road. It's famous all over the world. Well, this was a terrible shock to me. I didn't think such things happened anymore. Gradually, as I discovered and learned a little bit about what's happening and why it's happening, and I met some people who were willing to do something about it, well, I just grabbed the chance, and I threw my lot in with these people. Of course, I made pretty sure they were serious about this. I met some Chinese communists in Shanghai, and I knew they were serious. I had a very good proof. I'd seen a number of Chinese communists have their heads cut off on the outskirts of Shanghai, just for their beliefs in these things and wanting to change all this misery and injustice and oppression and exploitation. Finally, the people got so angry, and they made them a revolution.
Square in Peking. Each year on May Day, they celebrate like this. 1 million people massed together here in the name of a new nation, which for some is scarcely older than they are.
I remember what a family actually ate in a year, as far as meat was concerned. In the famine periods, children are sold just to keep them alive. Wives are sold to landlords for grain, just to keep the wife alive. A drought of a month or 2 or 3 would cause starvation among millions. Hardly any family ever had enough clothes or food.
But they have climbed out of this morass of enslavement into a life that seems, for many, a department of paradise. This is the heavenly gate of the imperial palace of the Manchu dynasty, the Forbidden City. In 1911, Sun Yat-sen brought empire to an end and established the First Republic. Now, peasants tread softly the paths of emperors, remembering that earlier such a base trespass would have earned a violent and barbaric death. Every Sunday afternoon at the Great Wall, thousands of workers relax on a monument to their proud past, a barrier to exclude the barbarians and contain the fixed and crystallized patterns of their life. In 1949, the crystal was shattered, and national pride changed to national purpose.
After liberation, I saw these people really get down to doing a job. So I travel up and down the country, see the farmers, the peasants, engineers, the workers, building like beehives, like bees. They really take an interest in doing it because in the old days, they really had it tough. And the worker now is working for himself, getting a regular salary, getting paid in money that would last for some time.
In the years since 1949, China's economy has settled down, and its production increased hugely. Russia helped at first, but the work that really counted was done, and still is done, by Chinese muscle. Revolution has always been part of the Chinese political landscape, and Mao had many predecessors, long before the pro-Western Sun Yat-sen, still honored as the one who, according to the doctrine of Marx and Lenin, prepared the way for communism by his bourgeois revolution. But despite Marx and all the Soviets, what happened in China was, and is, distinctly Chinese. In the depth of her age, into the richness of her culture, she had absorbed many things that were new. In the parks, they still perform the old contemplative exercises. That pebble the great plain of Manchuria, where China has fought both Russian and Japanese armies, she finds the source of industrial strength, coal and iron. The Anshan Iron and Steel Corporation encompasses 40 factories and 100,000 people. The men are tough and competent, and they make about $50 a month. Mechanized assembly lines are rare exceptions in this slowly developing technology. The goal of the urban Chinese is not a car, but a bicycle, and he'd gladly pay 2 or 3 months' salary to buy one. The rickshaw coolie now has at least the privilege of riding on the machine he propels, and is called a pedicab driver. The motive force, however, remains the same. The pall of industry hangs over Peking, but against the broader pattern of Chinese life, the industrial statistic is still almost invisible. Yet regular salaries, no matter how small, contribute to economic stability. But most important, production in the service of the state provides for many Chinese a format for his fiery and driving new sense of nationalism.
It says during the rule of the Kuomintang, the Kuomintang officials did not pay any attention to the production of the plant. They lived a very luxurious life. But they didn't care a damn about the life of the workers.
It is Friday afternoon in the Peking railway station. A group of workers prepares to go on a holiday organized by the state. They all have their permits, their allotment of baggage. No one travels in this country without a government permit. And no matter where you go, loudspeakers bring you the latest songs and slogans of socialist reconstruction. That the state should designate when and where they take their holidays, that the state should tell them the job that each must do during his life, that the state should decide both the type and extent of their education. This is no affront to their concept of freedom. Personal freedom is a strange Western notion, the word itself signifying license and chaos. For them, liberty is security and the certainty of tomorrow's food.
As for food in old China, as compared with those days, today the food problem is just the difference between heaven and earth. Just recently, when I was down there in Guangdong province working on one of these survey teams, the commune we were working in, the peasants actually had to line up to sell their pork. And they had to be assigned dates on which they could sell them. There was just too damn much of it.
Meat, which was extremely strictly rationed 2 years ago, to the point that I think the monthly ration per head was 3 ounces. But now it's 16 ounces. And apart from that, there is a free market, which is not so very much more expensive than the official market. It's quite legal, of course. There is no black market here.
You can see for yourself, if you go down to the vegetable markets, the tremendous variety of the stuff.
This is the new working class, the urban proletariat, living on state salaries. The old tradition of bargaining is gone. Prices are fixed, ration coupons almost as important as money. The new workers' apartments are simple and bare. 1 large room, 1 small room. We set out here one day without our escorts to seek an unprepared view of the Peking apartment dweller's life. And we had an unplanned and unexpected encounter with a very high official of pre-revolutionary days.
And you were the mayor of Peking?
Before liberation.
Before liberation.
Now I'm near 70 years old.
Where did you learn to speak English?
No, during new school, I studied 3 years in America, 3 years in Berlin, 2 years in Paris. That's all. After that, we are very good. I married my wife, my French wife.
She is from France?
French. She never retired. She's Chinese. She vote here.
Yeah.
She can vote.
She's become a Chinese citizen.
She's very happy. She has whole family here,
Yeah.
Look, we have steam, we have gas.
Yes.
We have everything. How much we pay,
How much?
40 人民币, 40 人民币, 40 some 人民币, 40 by month.
For all of them?
All is 5. She don't have no worry for your health, you go to hospital, pay you everything. And I'm not a propagandist, huh?
Oh, I understand.
No, but I just see from my bottom of my heart, we feel happier and happier. You know, my whole family here, we have 4 grandchildren. You know, so we're just very happy. We have every day, we just come home. Just when I finish my work, my meeting, I hurry up to go home. I don't want to meet him. He's happy.
A rising standard of living, the inevitable result. Birth control, including voluntary sterilization of men, is strongly advocated in China now, after some years of hostility to this technique of population control. Jacques Marcuse, remarking on the still alarming population increase, noted some further contradictions.
I've seen chemists' shops in Peking with one shop window full of contraceptives of every possible description, and the other one full of old-fashioned Chinese aphrodisiacs, such as deer antlers and so on and so forth. If to that you add the fact that free love is more than frowned upon, absolutely banned, and that people are not free to marry until they've reached a certain comparatively advanced age, the whole thing becomes even more puzzling.
In our institute now, we don't find any single case of infectious syphilis, for teaching purposes even. And we have to use rabbit syphilis to teach our students on. Most of the young doctors don't know anything about syphilis. They've never seen cases of it. Well, you just take the research work that's going on now in many fields. You take the suturing of this severed hand. This worker's had a hand cut off, you know. Well, that takes a pretty good mind to be able to do a thing like that. Or the breakthrough in the trachoma virus, one of those eye diseases that's ruined many an Asian and African country. And large amounts of people are able to do this type of work.
This is Han Honggen, one of the new elite of the Gaokan commune in northeast China. He's a tractor driver, 28 years old. His commune has 10,000 acres, 13,000 people living in 3,000 houses, 2,000 rubber-tired carts, 1,200 draft animals, 7 tractors. Before 1949, there were only 500 tractors in all of China. Han married a girl from the commune in 1957. Han Wei, 13 months, born in the commune hospital. His father was born in a field. Han helped build this duplex when he got married. It's better than average. It has a tile roof. His wife, Jia Chen, doesn't mind the dirt floor nor the grease paper windows. As a child, she had eaten bread made of maize and mud. She is also 28. Ordinarily, she'd be working in the fields, but she was weak for a long time after Han Wei was born. Han works from 7 in the morning to 6 p.m. with 2 hours off for lunch. Lunch can be scrambled eggs, green noodles, green bean soup, fried bread and pork. The Hans are able to raise a little extra food in their own self-managed plot. Many families have one. They can eat what they grow or sell it. Han Honggen, when asked, measured the success of communism in quilts. His family has 2 new quilts apiece. A few years ago, they shared an old one. At noon, he'll play basketball with the commune team, while Xia Shu Chen nurses the baby. With little mechanization, but hundreds of millions of human backs and a need for intensive farming, agricultural China resembles some vast market garden worked by hand. Most of this land has been worked more than any other on the earth. Some of these fields have yielded 5,000 successive harvests. Throughout the year, each family hoards its excrement. In the spring, they ladle it out of mortar pits and spread the life-giving nitrogen on the soil. The struggling young technology has not much touched the countryside as yet. Hand labor with hand tools keeps everyone at work. It stays for a while, the dislocation from the land that machines inevitably will bring. The government already is planning for the day when it must move 180 million people off the land and into the cities. But that day lies ahead. For now, the machine machine's slight intrusion into the commune to pump its water and mill its wheat and forge its own hand tools fits perfectly the pattern of communal self-sufficiency. What is a commune? A commune is people, brought together by the harsh demands of insufficient land and machinery, by the challenge of mutual help, by the urging and cajoling of the powerful and persuasive and determined state. How big is a commune? The size of the largest prairie wheat farm, 10,000 acres, say, dotted with 200 villages, 30,000 people. Who owns it? The members, though they may not sell it or give it away. Who runs it? The members, under the leadership of the Communist Party of China. The commune is politics and education and guidance in the ways of the Communist Party of China. The commune is business, managed by elected leaders selling to the state, filling state production quota. In an interview, Maréchal Chen Yi, the foreign minister of China, disputed our suggestion that China was still isolated and still hostile to the foreigner.
缺乏什么信心的问题。如果说缺乏信心嘛，是那些阻扰他们的人民呢，到中国来的，来看中实情况的人，那些国家。
It's not like that at all. On the contrary, I think it may be safely said that never before in this century have there been so many Chinese going abroad and so many people from all parts of the world coming to China on friendly visits. Of course we like to have foreign visitors visiting us. We have every reason to let them come and see for themselves. What is there to be afraid of? But we won't let those who are hostile and malicious towards us to come. What good will it do to let them come and fabricate lies about us?
What role does a press correspondent have then in Peking?
We do mostly paperwork. We read the press review. We have our own press review done by our own translators. We read the official Chinese news agency service. And we try to make some sense out of it all.
Is it possible to make any sense?
Well, that's for our readers to say.
埃塞俄比亚北方的名城阿斯马拉披上了节日的盛装，准备欢迎周恩来总理。
Mass media in China are rigidly controlled. Most major cities have television, but it's watched by large groups in halls or factories, and the programs are almost invariably politically instructive.
埃塞俄比亚有着3000多年的历史。
A favorite film story concerns the white-haired girl. Her hair had turned white after she was raped by a tyrannical landlord. The liberation brings retribution. As the state becomes the new fountainhead of morality, the lonely reservoirs of Western ethics are drying up. The Christian church continues with Sunday services, but it may not deliberately solicit new members. The mission schools have closed, and there's no contact with the parent churches.
We don't pretend that Christian faith and Marxist atheism are reconcilable. But at the same time, we don't think that should prevent us from cooperating with them in the tremendous task of socialist reconstruction in our country.
The state selects and trains performers in all the arts. Traditional art forms are conscientiously preserved and subtly changed. As Mao Zedong has said, art must serve socialism. This young girl's derision of the old man, symbolizing youth's rejection of ancient authority, can now assume a revolutionary significance. And the whole fabric of Chinese life is now interpreted according to Mao, the chairman, or Tzu Xi, Mao Tzu Xi. I woke at midnight and saw my little brother smiling. I asked him why he smiled, and he said, I dreamed of Chairman Mao. If and when they go to school, what and how much they will learn is decided by the state. In kindergarten and middle school, they get a sampling of the 3 R's and a strong dose of songs, slogans, and marches. A promising few go further.
I think that any system of education is aimed at giving children some sort of outlook on life, and it just depends on what kind of outlook do you want to give children. The outlook that China propagates is, in a sense, is to inculcate into young children a sense of service to Chinese people, and through the Chinese people, I think, to serve the people of the whole world. After all, China has about a quarter of the population of the
Do you feel the state has assumed an overwhelming importance in the life of the children? Does it replace their family loyalties?
No, I think these are artificial contradictions. The state, the people, the family in China, they're all one thing. They're absolutely against making children just machines. They want thinking people.
We are small militiamen fighting U.S. imperialism. Uncle, we must grow up quick and go to liberate Taiwan.
One thing is apparent. It's pretty obvious that if China had continued to toe the Russian line, China, with her limited material possibilities at the moment, would have to continue playing second fiddle to Moscow. And China would rather be on her own, the leader of no matter how small a proportion of the communist world, because she feels, A, that she is China, a much older, a much more civilized country than Russia, a younger communist country, if you like, but a much older great power. There is also the feeling that, strictly ideologically speaking, the Russians are traitors to the cause. The Chinese feel that Russia has gone soft, that austerity, when it stops being a necessity, must become a national institution. Otherwise, China will also be soft and weak. I don't think that China has any hope of catching up with the West unless the West stops and waits for China. It could only happen in the case of a disastrous push-button war, in which there would be no battlefields, in which the number of armies would not count. A war in which China, as she is now, would be negligible, both as an enemy and as an ally, but certainly not as a survivor.
What about China and Russia, comparing them in economic terms only, and industrial terms?
I think there is no comparison at all. Russia is a first-class economic power. China certainly is not. Also, Russia is a first-class military power, and China is not.
What about in 40 years?
Come and see me again in 40 years.
At 3 p.m. on October 16, 1964, the Chinese exploded a nuclear device.